In Big Brother, we have seen some of the show's most iconic women put on dominant showcases during their seasons. Danielle's Big Brother 3 game was a masterclass in social and strategic deception. Janelle's Big Brother 7 game gave us the most impressive competitive domination that we have ever seen. And Vanessa's Big Brother 17 game was perhaps the single greatest strategic showing in all of the show's history. However, that one elusive badge that's missing from all of these performances is the win. For one reason or another, something always happens that prevents these women from winning, and we have been robbed of seeing their efforts pay off with the crown. Up until now. Meet Chelsie Baham, the victor of today's story. Now, it's one thing to play a dominant game in a pretty stagnant season, but Big Brother 26 was anything but that, and Chelsie had roadblock after roadblock in her path to the end. She lost plenty of allies, and she had to play from the bottom. She had to maneuver around the never-before-seen AI arena, and she had to deal with the King of Chaos, Tucker. So, how did Chelsie manage to overcome these obstacles and come out on top with one of the most impressive winning games that we have ever seen? Let's find out. This is the story of how Chelsie Baham won Big Brother 26.
My name is Chelsie. I'm a nonprofit director.
I love God and I love you, but if you cross me, don't play with me, okay?
If you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button as we are getting closer and closer to 100,000 subscribers. Thanks. Chelsie Baham was a 27-year-old nonprofit director from California, and she was a big fan of Big Brother. She started watching during season 10, and although she wasn't really a live feed watcher, she was still a huge fan of the episodes and the show as a whole, so she had a pretty good baseline level of Big Brother knowledge going into the season. Chelsie wanted to utilize her social game and not have to rely on winning comps to survive. So to prepare for the season, she read books and studied up on how to socially gain favor with every different personality type. Would her preparation pay off? Let's jump into night one and see how Chelsie fares.
I am crazy competitive, and people are gonna be like, what happened to sweet little Chelsie? A game happened, okay?
Chelsie entered the Big Brother house alongside 15 other strangers, but instead of doing introductions first, Chelsie's group of 8 players were instantly faced with a decision. A 17th house guest named Ainsley was presented to them, and they were to anonymously vote yes or no on whether or not to let Ainsley join the game as a player. Chelsie didn't even need to think about it. She voted no, which is, in fact, the optimal choice.
There's another person that I have to fight against to get the check at the end, so I mean, I don't know.
Unfortunately, the house guests were tricked, and this wasn't actually a real vote. In fact, Ainsley wasn't even a real person. She was actually a being of artificial intelligence that would be the focal point of the season's plot, and her first act of trickery was this very vote. Anyone who had voted yes would be rewarded by getting to compete in a competition for a secret power, whereas everyone who had voted no would be punished by being forced to compete in a competition where the loser would receive a massive downgrade to their game. So Chelsie was being punished for making the good move in picking no, which feels a bit unfair, but that's Big Brother for you.
The loser is gonna have their game severely downgraded, and I cannot be this person. Dear God, help a sister out.
Chelsie ended up losing this punishment competition alongside fellow house guest Cedric, and they were told that their games were about to be downgraded big time in this first week. Because they lost the downgrade competition, they were not allowed to compete in the HOH comp. They were not allowed to compete in the veto comp. They weren't even allowed to vote. But they could still be nominated. And to top it all off, they had to wear this microchip mascot costume.
This week, you are not eligible to compete for head of household or the power of veto.
Ainsley, I don't think we're friends.
For a week 1 punishment, this was brutal. In terms of the game, you really served no purpose for the other players. You couldn't keep them safe by winning power, and you couldn't really be brought in as a number for the week 1 vote because you didn't have a vote. You were also a complete sitting duck when it came to nominations, because the eventual HOH could nominate you with pretty much zero repercussions, as they didn't need to worry about you winning the veto to take yourself off the block. This was one of the biggest setbacks you could possibly have to start the game off. And to make matters worse, it coincided with the game-changing twist of the season, the AI Arena. Ainsley announced to the house guests that instead of the standard 2 nominees each week, there would actually be 3. Then, on Thursday night, just 20 minutes before the eviction vote, the 3 nominees would compete in a competition called the AI Arena. The winner of this competition would then earn their safety and come off the block, and the remaining 2 nominees would then face the eviction vote as normal. This was kind of a huge deal and completely shifted the gameplay for the season, as you'll soon come to see. But for right now, let's focus on Chelsie. In the wake of the AI Arena, it was more important than ever for her to find a way to navigate through this downgrade, and navigate she did. My friends Isaiah and Josie over at Silent Podcast actually asked Chelsie a question for me regarding her downgrade punishment, and Chelsie had this to say.
Week 1 being downgraded, hindsight is 2020. It did benefit me. I used it to my advantage, saying, okay, this forces me to play a different game than everybody else week 1. And that is to build relationships. And that is the thing that I believe got me very far, was the relationships that I was forced to build day 2.
Chelsie recognized that she needed to focus solely on her bonds this week because of the downgrade, and it gave her a step up over the rest of the field because she didn't need to worry about competitions or anything else. It was only social bonds and nothing else. So, while the other players were gearing up for the first HOH, Chelsie was focused on her connections and how she would pivot after the competition was over. Angela ended up winning the first HOH comp, and with that, it was game time. Chelsie hit the ground running in terms of her social game this week, and let's just say that she outdid herself. Practically everyone wanted to pull Chelsie in at some point during the first few days, and because of it, Chelsie was able to set herself up in a really fantastic position, and she was involved in quite a few alliances. This is going to get a little overwhelming, as there's going to be a lot of names thrown at you all at once, but just try to stick with me, and we'll go more in depth when the time calls for it. Chelsie hit it off with Joseph pretty early on, and was involved in the formation of an 8-person mega alliance called the Collective, which consisted of herself, Joseph, Cedric, Cam, Quinn, Chemo, T-Core, and Angela.
So what should we do?
If we don't form an alliance, we don't have numbers. We don't control anything this week.
Unsuspecting.
I like the idea of calling a group the Collective.
So it's you, T-Core, him, me, Chelsie, Cam, Cedric,
Within this collective alliance, Chelsie was pulled into a 5-person group called the Pentagon, which consisted of herself, Cedric, Cam, Quinn, and Brooklyn, someone who wasn't originally in the collective, but she basically is. And then, even within the Pentagon Alliance, Chelsie was in a 3-person core alliance that consisted of herself, Cedric, and Cam, and we'll call that the 3 C's Alliance.
I'd say this is the core, right?
Yeah. Cedric and I, we did some trauma bonding. We were mascots for the week. Cam came up saying, let's do our smart, and we want to play this game together.
This is our team. This is our business. If we can get Quinn. Yes. I'm a fan of Brooklyn.
I had locked eyes with Chelsie on day 1. Now she's coming to me offering a 5-person alliance.
The Pentagon. Oh, yeah.
Oh, the little dumb.
Now, aside from the collective, Chelsie was also in a fake alliance called the Barbershop Alliance, which is something that I'm not really going to talk about again because it's not a real alliance, but I'm mentioning it because this fake alliance did give Chelsie some ties to Rubina, Leah, Matt, and Mackenzie, who also went by MJ.
Here's the deal. We are the Barbershop. We rock with everybody no matter what.
So, the only players that Chelsie didn't really have anything with in the first couple of days were Tucker, Kenny, and Lisa. Okay, I know that was a lot, but basically all you need to know is that Chelsie was one of the best insulated players in the house, and the players that she seemed to have really great individual connections with were Cedric, Brooklyn, Cam, and Quinn, as well as some pretty solid connections with Joseph and Tikor. In terms of Chelsea's personal safety for this week, she was actually hit with some excellent news. Because of how bad Chelsea's downgrade looked to be on paper, the other players actually felt super bad for her and Cedric. So much so that they pretty much all came together and agreed to not nominate or target either of them, feeling as though it wouldn't be fair. This was crazy because that was kinda the whole point of the downgrade, but this was wonderful news for Chelsie because it meant that she was safe for the week. In the wake of this massive disadvantage, Chelsie had managed to turn it all around completely.
Mama! Your girl is downgraded. I have no type of power. So the fact that HOH is saying that she wants to work with me, say less, baby.
As for the week, Angela nominated Kenny, Lisa, and Chemo for eviction, which was pretty great for Chelsie because she had no real relationship with Kenny or Lisa, and Chemo was a pretty obvious pawn. Lisa seemed to be the likely target if nominations remained the same, and it seemed like it could be a pretty straightforward week. Of course, that's not what happened though, and it's at this point that things in the Big Brother 26 house start to get majorly chaotic. The morning after nominations, Angela called Matt out in front of literally the entire house because she felt that Matt had threatened her in a conversation the night prior.
Crazy eyes. I mean, look at your freaking eyes, Matt. They're like, oh.
Are you gonna try to expose me, or are we gonna talk about it?
I don't want to hear you, honestly.
Then, Angela called out Quinn and Joseph for trying to get her to join the collective, stating that she knew they were faking it and that they were just using her. Which is funny because Joseph and Quinn weren't messing with her. They did actually want her in the collective, but now it was all blown up.
For the visitors that came to visit me last night, your performance was great for a low-budget movie.
Angela, we were not lying. We genuinely want you part of the team, dude.
So, Chelsie walked away from this hectic morning with one big takeaway. How the heck was she supposed to work with Angela?
Are we still feeling good about the collective because she's in there?
Now I don't trust her to keep her mouth shut. Mama Angela, there was no need for that. I didn't know that the people that I work with are able to control their emotions no matter what's going on in this house.
Then, to add to all of the chaos, Lisa, the current target, ended up winning the veto, which opened the door for a much bigger move to be made. Angela took the opportunity to take a big shot at her new rival, Matt, and she named Matt as the replacement. Matt was a big physical threat sitting on the block in week 1. The house had to take the shot at him. The only problem was that pesky AI arena. Because of the AI arena, you couldn't necessarily publicly rally the house against one of the nominees, like in any other season, because there was a very real chance that that player would win the AI arena and still be there after the eviction. So, throughout this first week, a lot of the players were playing things very passively and not being super public with their desires to get Matt out, because he seemed to be the odds-on favorite to win safety. So, although most players were coming to the same conclusion, they couldn't really come together and talk about it. The funny thing here is that this wasn't something that Chelsie personally needed to worry about. Because of the fact that Chelsie didn't have a vote, she could play off any potential eviction result and pivot accordingly, putting her in a great position no matter what happened because nobody could accuse her of voting against them. Chelsie wanted Matt to go, for sure, but she was smart with who she confided in. With players like Cam, Quinn, and Brooklyn, she was open about Matt being the person who should go home. But with players like Mackenzie and Leah, two people who looked to be publicly aligned with Matt, she would keep the plan hush-hush and instead talk about how Matt had to stay. Chelsie's navigation through this first week was downright brilliant. She had her hands in all the cookie jars, and it was almost impossible for anything to blow up in her face. When eviction night approached and the AI arena took place, Chelsie had her fingers crossed that Matt wouldn't win the competition, and the winner ended up being
Chemo. Gentlemen, come.
With Chemo now off the block and Matt and Kenny being the ones to face the eviction, the secret plan to blindside Matt was good to go. Almost everyone in the house voted to evict Matt, with just 3 exceptions. 2 of those were the aforementioned Mackenzie and Leah, who weren't let in on the plan due to their presumed closeness to Matt, and the other vote was Lisa, who nobody really cared about enough to let in on the plan in the first place. So those 3 players were caught off guard when Matt was evicted in a vote of 9-3, ending this chaotic first week with a bang.
Hello, Joseph.
What up, fam?
Please cast your vote to evict.
We're not gonna let this be like every other Big Brother season. I vote to evict Matt.
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 Matt. Matt.
Matt.
Matt. Matt.
Kenny.
Kenny.
By a vote of 8-3, Matt, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
Going into the week 2 HOH, Chelsie did not want to win this competition, and she planned on throwing it. However, she also didn't want Leah to win it, since she was just left out of the vote, and who knows what she would do. So Chelsie planned on staying in the competition until Leah was out, and then she would throw it. The only problem was that Leah was crushing it, and before you knew it, there were only 3 people left in the HOH comp. By the time Leah finally got a question wrong and was eliminated, it was too late. Chelsie was the last player left in the competition, and she accidentally won the second HOH.
I don't feel like I'm anybody's target. I feel like I've built some good relationships with pretty much everybody in the house, and so I'm not too sure I want to win. I don't want to put blood on my hands.
Chelsie, congratulations! You are the new head of household!
I don't know how I got here, but I'm safe another week.
It's at this point that I started to take a real solid look at Chelsie. As many of you know, there was a curse associated with winning the second HOH. No second HOH had ever gone on to win the game. So now that Chelsie had won it, I was very curious to see if she would be the one to put that curse to rest. In better news though, by winning this HOH, Chelsie had not only guaranteed her safety for the week, but she was also able to solidify some of the alliance structures that she was in. Because of the craziness that was week 1, a lot of those initial alliances were being held together by dried out Elmer's glue. But now that Chelsie was in a position of power, she could plant her roots into a structure that she actually trusted. Although I mentioned the 3 C's and the Pentagon during the last week, it's under Chelsea's HOH that those alliances really solidified and became a big factor in the game. Chelsea's relationship with Brooklyn in particular really blossomed this week as well, and the 2 women grew quite close, eventually even making a final 2 deal. Also, I should probably talk about the collective. Even though Angela blew it up the prior week, most of the members still wanted to try and make it work, just without Angela. So the collective was reformed, except instead of Angela, it was Brooklyn. What's funny is that Brooklyn wasn't initially a part of it, but Chelsie just thought that she was, so she invited her to one of the first collective meetings, and they kinda just had to let Brooklyn join at this point because she knew about the alliance. The collective alliance was mostly real in the sense that they all had each other's back to a certain degree and were all on board to vote together, but it wasn't nearly as strong as the Pentagon or the 3 C's. Regardless of the strength of it, it was still something good for Chelsie to have in her back pocket. As for her HOH duties, although Chelsie didn't really have an intended target in mind, she was fortunate in the sense that she had 2 super easy nominees. One was Kenny, who came up and volunteered to be nominated because he wanted to go home and he sucks. And the other one was Angela, who everyone was down to target due to her over-the-top insanity the week prior.
Angela, she pissed so many people off week 1. It would be almost dumb of me to not put her up this week.
Kenny's like an easy out.
Kenny, he was crying when Matt got sent out and he got saved. So I was like, he's ready to go home.
Then, for the last nominee, Chelsie had narrowed it down to Lisa, Mackenzie, and Leah, the obvious 3 on the outs since they all voted for Matt to stay. Tucker pitched to Chelsie for Lisa to go on the block because he couldn't stand Lisa, but Chelsie hadn't made up her mind yet. She wanted to talk to Mackenzie and Leah first to try and catch their vibe and see where their heads were at. Mackenzie came up to the HOH room for a chat with Chelsie, and that's when she dropped a bomb that she had actually won one of the 2 power-ups from the upgrade competition on night 1. Mackenzie revealed that the power she had was called America's Veto. This acted similarly to a regular veto in the sense that Mackenzie could use it at the veto meeting to save one of the nominees. However, instead of the HOH choosing the replacement, America would get to decide who went up.
So honestly, at this point, I want Chelsie to trust me.
I'm a little sketched out about who to trust and the 2 power-ups that are still on. I do have it.
You have it? Mm-hmm. It's called America's Veto.
Shut up.
this fell right into my hands.
This threw a major wrench in Chelsea's plans. If she chose to nominate Mackenzie or even Leah, this would make them mad. They likely wouldn't even go home because Mackenzie would just use her power, and then Chelsie couldn't even choose the replacement nominee. So instead of making an enemy out of the duo, Chelsie made the correct and intelligent decision to work with them instead. Since she didn't technically burn any bridges with them by voting Matt out, since she didn't have a vote, those two women were already more willing to work with Chelsie than many of the others. And Mackenzie could make for a very powerful ally since she had the secret power. This was great and all, but that meant that Chelsie still had to figure out who to nominate as that third nominee. While talking with the Pentagon, Chelsie let them know that she was originally thinking of just nominating Lisa, but at a later point, Mackenzie and Leah pitched to Chelsie to nominate someone like Cam as a pawn. Although Cam begrudgingly agreed to go up as a pawn, he didn't actually want to, and if Chelsie chose to nominate him, that could really do some damage to their relationship in the game. When Chelsie was called to the diary room to make her nominations, things got even crazier, because as Chelsie was walking to make her nominations, Cedric told her that she could nominate him as a pawn if she really needed to. Thankfully, Chelsie came to the correct decision and didn't nominate either of her close allies as pawns, and instead, she chose Lisa, alongside Kenny and Angela, which kept all of her allies off the block. It kept Mackenzie and Leah somewhat happy, since they weren't nominated, and Tucker was happy, since Lisa was on the block.
This is the first time the Pentagon is together. I want their opinion.
I think you're right with Kenny, Angela, and Lisa.
I have nominated you, Kenny, Angela, and Lisa.
They are three people I believe the House cares about the least. I could have put up Leah and Mackenzie for eviction, but I didn't want to draw a line in the sand, and I want as little blood on my hands as possible.
The fact that Chelsie didn't make me use my power shows me that our trust is growing.
After making the nominations, Chelsie decided that Lisa would probably be the best player to target since she was seemingly the best competitor of the three nominees, and Chelsie wanted to keep Angela in the game, knowing that Angela would likely be the one to take a shot at Mackenzie and Leah down the road.
Lisa's reminding me that she is probably a better competitor than Angela and Kenny combined. She already won a veto.
So, going into the veto, Chelsie had her fingers crossed that Lisa wouldn't win the veto again. And guess what? Lisa didn't win the veto. Unfortunately, Kenny did, which meant that Chelsie would need to nominate yet another player this week.
I am happy for Kenny, but I am dying on the inside.
Luckily for her, though, this decision fell right into her lap, as Tucker came up to her and volunteered to be the replacement so that he could go in and beat Lisa in the AI arena, as he seemingly despised her so much that he wanted to be the one to seal Lisa's fate in the game. So, Chelsie took him up on his offer and named Tucker as the replacement nominee.
I think that this week I can beat both Angela and Lisa in the AI arenas. If you need to put me up,
are you sure?
I'm sure I'll be fine.
This person is by no means a target. So with that being said, Tucker, go do your thing.
I decided to name Tucker as the replacement nominee because he offered himself to go up on the block. Now, putting Mackenzie on the block would have flushed out her power, but I would have an enemy coming after me rather than a potential ally working for me.
Although Lisa was still the target, Angela really sabotaged herself this week by ruffling a lot of feathers that didn't need to be ruffled, almost making herself the target, but in the end, the vote stayed on Lisa.
Is there any way on God's green earth we can get rid of both Angela and Lisa? Because I don't know if we can take one more minute of either of these jokers.
Come eviction night, Tucker ended up winning the AI arena to come off the block, and Lisa was subsequently blindsided and evicted in a vote of 11-1, with only Kenny voting to keep her, seemingly because Kenny didn't know what everyone else was doing.
Chelsie, as current head of household, you will only vote in the event of a tie. Hello, T-Core.
Hi, Julie.
Please cast your vote to evict.
I don't want to do this, but I sadly vote to evict Lisa.
Lisa.
Lisa. Lisa for some reason.
Lisa.
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 Lisa. Lisa.
Lisa.
Angela.
By a vote of 11-1, Lisa, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
Chelsea's HOH reign wasn't flashy, and there were some hurdles that she had to overcome, but in the end, I would still call it a decent success. She didn't really upset anyone in the house. She evicted Lisa, who pretty much everyone was annoyed by. She made some new tentative allies in Mackenzie and Leah, and she was entering week 3 in a spot where nobody was looking to target her.
as the HOH, I am so glad this week was not wasted because let's be real, Lisa was a good competitor. So I'm just glad I was the one that was able to get her out.
Going into the Week 3 HOH, Chelsie sat on the sidelines and watched as one of her best case scenarios came into fruition once Cedric won the HOH.
Congratulations, Cedric, you are the new head of household!
I feel amazing that Cedric won head of household. This is another week that I am solid.
Cedric was one of her closest allies in the game, so this meant that Chelsie would be fully safe once again. Cedric looked to Chelsie for advice, since he viewed her Week 2 HOH as a success, which meant that Chelsie was directly involved with the initial decision making here.
I want to talk to my fellow Pentagon member and mascot and figure out what do I do. Her HOH went smooth as butter.
Chelsie spoke with Cedric, and Cedric said that his first two nominees were going to be Kenny and Angela. But just like last week, he needed to figure out who would be that third nominee. He was thinking about Mackenzie, but because of her power, he didn't feel that he could. So Chelsie then offered up the idea of Leah. Whoa, hold on. Wasn't Chelsie kind of aligned with Leah? Well, let's talk about it. Mackenzie and Leah were really just allies of convenience for Chelsie. Having a good relationship with the duo meant that more of Chelsea's bases were covered, but she wasn't actually looking to work long-term with them. Her loyalties were with Cam and Cedric in the Pentagon. Also, during the prior week, Leah and Mackenzie had brought up that Cedric was actually on their radar. Chelsie didn't want to do anything about it during her HOH reign, because then she'd have to get the blood on her hands. But now that Cedric was the HOH, this seems like a perfect time to let him know what they were saying.
During my HOH reign, both Mackenzie and Leah brought up Cedric's name.
Cedric's been weird. He's been acting strange.
He should be worried.
Chelsea let Cedric know what MJ and Leah had said, and it really made him consider nominating Leah. But after talking with her privately, he decided against it. Instead, Cedric decided to go with Tucker, because, once again, Tucker volunteered for the block since he liked being in the hot seat for some reason, meaning that the nominations were going to be Angela, Kenny, and Tucker. Tucker ended up winning the veto, so needing a replacement nominee, Cedric figured that it was finally time to bite the bullet and just nominate Mackenzie. But she was actually meant to just be a pawn so that the House could evict Angela this week. When Mackenzie was first approached about being the replacement, she was pretty open that she was going to use America's veto to save herself. But Chelsie went to work, and she did a stellar job. She reassured Mackenzie over and over that she was just the pawn, and that she would obviously beat Kenny and Angela in the AI arena, so it would be best for her to save her power and use it next week. You know, maybe if Chelsie happened to be in danger. And shockingly, Chelsie actually convinced Mackenzie not to use the power. Chelsea's social ability was unreal impressive, and her being able to convince Mackenzie to not use her power is a prime example of that. However, it's right about here that things go absolutely bananas. Now, Chelsie isn't really involved in anything that's about to go down, but this isn't something I can really skip over, so strap in for this quick version. Basically, Tucker had learned that Quinn secretly had the second upgrade power from the first night, the deepfake HOH, and it would allow Quinn to anonymously take over the Week 4 HOH completely. So Tucker wanted to make a big move and get Quinn out this week. Tucker was confident in his competition ability, so he made a plan with Cedric, where Tucker would use the veto not on himself, but on Angela, and then Cedric would name Quinn the replacement nominee and then vote him out. Cedric initially said yes, but then he backed out from the plan and he told the Pentagon about what Tucker was planning on doing.
Yesterday, we get approached with a plan. Tucker uses the veto on Angela. We put Quinn up, we vote Quinn out.
What?
Damn.
Thank you for telling us.
Yeah, of course.
Cedric told Tucker that he wasn't going to go through with it and that he should just use the veto on himself, but Tucker said, "F that, I'm still using the veto on Angela." So, at the veto meeting, Tucker used the veto on Angela, but Cedric didn't go through with the plan and he nominated Mackenzie instead.
Big brother, expect the unexpected. Here you go, Angela.
I had no idea.
You gotta get the competitors out, guys. Mackenzie, I'm sorry if we'll take your place on the block.
I don't remember.
This did two things. One, this pissed Tucker off tremendously, and he declared that Cedric would be his #1 target moving forward. And also, he told the whole house about Quinn's power.
Better players in here that you should put up with stronger power-ups, and you just blindsided me, so good luck. Plan was to put Quinn up because Quinn's got the biggest upgrade in the house, and he told Chemo about it.
Oh my God!
This scared Mackenzie enough to use her America's veto. So, what this meant was that Tucker and Kenny were still on the block, and now America would vote on who would be the third nominee.
I have America's veto, and I'm activating it now. This is big, brother.
For all the drama and craziness that erupted from this, Chelsie did a really good job of avoiding pretty much all of it. She was actually one of the few people this week that was able to walk away from the ceremony unscathed, and that's something to give her credit for. Anyways, most of the house guests were able to guess that Quinn would end up being America's replacement, but Chelsie put in the work to ensure that Quinn would not get voted out if he ended up on the block. This wasn't necessarily out of loyalty to Quinn, but rather for the power that he possessed. Since Quinn was in the Pentagon with Chelsie, and since Quinn's power would guarantee him the HOH in week 4, that meant that that was yet another week that the HOH power would remain in Chelsea's corner. So it made a ton of sense for Chelsie to campaign on Quinn's behalf in order to keep the power on her side. Her campaigning ended up being very successful, and most of the House agreed to not vote out whoever was named America's replacement. Because of Tucker's crazy antics, his daunting comp ability, and his open targeting of both Quinn and Cedric, he was the Pentagon's target for the week if he were to lose the AI arena on Thursday.
The more Tucker opens his mouth, the deeper he's digging his grave in this game.
You shouldn't have done what you did, bro.
What numbers do you got?
But of course, things didn't work out that way. Come eviction night, Quinn was named America's nominee, as expected, and then Tucker won the AI arena for the second straight week, meaning that Quinn and Kenny would be the final nominees. The work that Chelsie had done paid off, as Kenny was subsequently evicted in a vote of 9-1, with only Tucker voting to send Quinn home.
Hello, Chelsie.
Hi, Auntie Julie. You look divine.
Oh, it is my honor to be called your auntie. Please cast your vote to evict.
I vote to evict Kenny.
Kenny.
Kenny. Kenny. Kenny. Kenny.
Kenny. Kenny. Kenny.
Kenny.
Quinn.
By a vote of 10-1, Kenny, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
This was a really wild week, but a week that Chelsie thrived in because she managed to stay out of the war zone. And knowing that the HOH was already on her side, she was ready to keep the momentum going as they headed into week 4.
Now it's the Pentagon against Tucker.
It was not going well for me.
Going into week 4, Chelsie and the Pentagon had two main targets, Tucker and Angela. Thankfully, since Quinn was going to overthrow the HOH no matter who won it, they already had the power, so now it was just a matter of making sure that Tucker or Angela didn't win the HOH, because that would keep them immune for the week.
The Pentagon has to be careful. So I need one of us to pull this win off without showing that we're working together.
Unfortunately, Angela absolutely beasted this competition, and she won the HOH.
Looky. Angela's on fire in this competition. The last time Angela was HOH, let's not forget, she was popping off to everybody.
Although that kinda sucked, as she was the backup target, at least Tucker was still vulnerable, and they could just target him instead. Quinn activated his power to overthrow Angela's HOH, and he nominated Tucker, Mackenzie, and Cedric. Cedric had volunteered to be a pawn to try and beat Tucker in the veto, which is why Quinn nominated someone from the Pentagon. But unfortunately, this was all for naught, as Tucker went out and won the veto to save himself again. God, what a bad outcome for Chelsie. Tucker didn't mess around with things this week, and he actually did use the veto on himself, and Quinn chose to nominate Rubina in his place, as Tucker and Rubina were in a bit of a flirtmance-showmance thing at the time. This sucked for Chelsie, that Cedric was still on the block, but the Pentagon had put in the work to ensure that Mackenzie was the target, because she was a pretty big physical threat. However, this was not really a good play from Chelsie. Mackenzie was someone who was in Chelsea's corner, someone who could be a fierce, loyal, and powerful ally for her to have in the game, and she was just letting her go. Because of this, Chelsie also dropped the ball on managing Mackenzie this week. She didn't really put much of a social effort in maintaining Mackenzie's loyalty, which I see as a misstep since there was still the possibility of her winning the AI arena. For what it's worth, Chelsie did still have a ton of allies in the house. She had Brooklyn as her number 1, she had Cam and Cedric as her core, she had Quinn to a slightly lesser extent than those 3, and then she also had the other members of the collective on her side too, that being Joseph, T-Core, and Chemo. So, on one hand, I can understand why Chelsie might have felt that she didn't absolutely need Mackenzie, but it was still not optimal of her to target her, and she should have been trying to put the votes onto Rubina instead. At the very least, though, if Mackenzie managed to win the AI arena, then Rubina was the backup target, and she would get evicted over Cedric. When eviction night came, the AI arena was a very close battle, but in the end...
Congratulations, Mackenzie!
What a wild outcome. This actually might have been a good thing for Chelsie, because now she'd get to keep Mackenzie in the game and hopefully be able to use her down the road. It sucked that Cedric was still on the block, but that's no problem. Chelsie went through with the plan to evict Rubina, and by a vote of 6-3, Cedric was evicted from the Big Brother house.
Hello, Chelsie.
Auntie Julie, I missed you.
I missed you too. Please cast your vote to evict.
I vote to evict Rubina.
Rubina. Cedric.
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 By a vote of 6-3, Cedric, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
Oh my god!
Oh sh**. Chelsie was blindsided. What went wrong? What happened? Well, it all comes down to 2 players in particular, T-Core and Chemo, 2 of Chelsea's collective allies. You see, Quinn actually told the duo of T-Core and Chemo about the Pentagon many weeks earlier, and this strongly worried the duo because it confirmed to them that they were on the bottom of the collective. Rubina was someone that T-Core and Chemo were very close to in the game, and since they knew that Cedric was hiding the fact that he was in the Pentagon from them, they decided to take a stand in the game and try to save Rubina in the event that Mackenzie won the AI arena. On the morning of the eviction, they put in motion a plan to try and get the 5 necessary votes to save Rubina if she was on the block next to Cedric. Tucker was an easy vote for them to get, but how would they get the other votes? Well, they went to the 2 outsiders, Leah and Mackenzie. It really didn't take much to convince them to be brought into this plan because at the end of the day, they just wanted to be part of something. If Chelsie hadn't neglected Mackenzie this week, there is a very good chance that she could have maintained control over her and stopped her from flipping her vote. But because she dropped the ball, T-Core and Chemo were able to swoop in and pick her up instead, and that gave them the numbers to make it happen.
I'm in an alliance with Chelsie, Cedric, Cam, and Brooklyn.
I love Cedric. But I feel like if we're bottom of the barrel, I think we should blow the Pentagon. Oh my god, saying that sounds weird.
Oh, also, Joseph ridiculously was able to assess in the moment that the flip was going through, and he flipped his vote onto Cedric at the last second so as not to be on the wrong side of the numbers, which is why the vote ended up being 6-3, with Cam, Brooklyn, Quinn, and Chelsie being the 4 left out of the plan.
But that's 4 against the house.
Who did y'all vote for?
Obviously.
So Joseph, T-Core, all 3 of them bumped out.
Not even a warning, nothing.
Cards are shown.
For what it's worth, this wasn't T-Core and Chemo taking a direct shot at Chelsie. Chelsie still had a very good relationship with T-Core, but the circumstances regarding this situation made it such that T-Core couldn't let Chelsie know about the plan. Otherwise, the flip would have had a lot more pushback. Regardless, though, this was a major blow to Chelsea's game. Cedric was like her second closest ally in the house, someone she could trust almost completely, and not only was he gone, but her position was now exposed, and she was at the bottom. This is Big Brother though, so Chelsie knew that she had to put on her game face and keep on fighting.
Cedric, the brother I did not ask for, but I just love so much. If you're watching this, I don't know what the hell happened. You should still be in this house, and I don't believe you're 21. Love you, man. I'll see you soon.
Going into the 5th HOH, Chelsie was determined to win. For the first time this season, a move had been made without her knowledge, and it really screwed her. So winning the HOH could help her salvage her position in the game, and hopefully she could rebound back into power.
There's a lot of people that could potentially be coming after me. So I gotta win this HOH to protect myself, but also to protect my remaining homies, Quinn, Brooklyn, and Cam.
Unfortunately, though, she was unable to prevail, and the ever-chaotic Tucker came away with the HOH crown. This was Tucker's 4th week in a row of winning some sort of power, so not only had he established himself as the very scary competitor of the season, but he was assuredly coming for the Pentagon members this week. On the bright side, though, it didn't seem like Chelsie was the Pentagon member that Tucker was going after. Tucker and Quinn still had a very public rivalry, and Brooklyn had put a lot of spotlight on herself since she didn't hide her displeasure at being blindsided all that well. In contrast to that, Chelsie had done a great job remaining cool, calm, and collected, even in the wake of the game crashing down on her, and that's something to give her praise for. When Tucker made his initial nominations, Chelsie was the only Pentagon member to survive, as Tucker nominated Quinn, Brooklyn, and Cam.
I've nominated you, Quinn, you, Cam, and you, Brooklyn.
I am relieved that I am not on the block. However, I'm not dumb. It doesn't take a genius to see there's 3 Pentagon members up on the block. In the event one of them comes down, I'm probably gonna go up.
Tucker then went on to win the veto for the 3rd week in a row, and this is where things get unbelievably crazy.
I hope everybody is comfortably seated because it's about to get really uncomfortable in here for a lot of people.
At the veto meeting, Tucker stood up and exposed everything. He told the entire house that he knew about the collective, and he named all 8 players in the alliance.
So I know all about the collective, all the 8 people, Brooklyn, Tukor, Chelsie, Chemo, Joseph, Cam, Quinn's in it.
Then he announced that there was a 5-person group within the collective, and he proceeded to name all 5 members of the Pentagon in front of everyone.
And I know that there's an even tighter knit group within the collective that is Chelsie, Quinn, it was Cedric, Brooklyn, and Cam.
And then he announced that the 2 people he believed to be the head of this alliance, and therefore the heads of the snake, were Brooklyn and Chelsie. So, in order to try and cut the heads off of the snake, Tucker proceeded to make a move that shocked everyone. He took the veto, he used it on Quinn, and he named Chelsie as the replacement nominee.
I believe that it is Brooklyn and Chelsie are the main ones in charge of that whole collective and that tighter knit group. So I have decided to use the power of veto on Quinn. And my replacement is Chelsie.
How did this game flip like this? What am I missing, and who do I need to slap? Somehow Quinn comes off of the block, and now I'm on the block. I'm being accused of running all of these alliances. I think Quinn sold me out.
Really, Joseph?
I didn't tell him. I didn't tell him nothing.
And Quinn?
I didn't tell him
really?
nothing.
Chelsie was blindsided again. She did not see this coming, and now she was on the block for the first time this season. Tucker was all about big moves, and putting Chelsie on the block was his next big moment. How is it, though, that Tucker even found out about all of these specifics? Well, it's because nobody in this house was good at keeping their mouth shut. Chemo kind of had a crush on Tucker, and he told Tucker about both the collective and the Pentagon, which led to Chelsie being the replacement. Joseph had also told Tucker about the collective because Joseph actually had a secret Final 2 deal with Tucker, so when Chelsie called Joseph out at the veto meeting, she was actually right. After the ceremony, Chelsie spoke with Quinn and asked him if he'd told Tucker about the Pentagon. Quinn denied this, but then finally revealed to Chelsie that he did tell Chemo and Tukor about it. This made Chelsie so angry on the inside, and she lost a lot of trust in Quinn in this moment. But Chelsea's a smart cookie, and she made sure not to let her frustrations with Quinn be visible, because she needed his vote to survive.
I want to slap this dude so hard right now, but I am also very aware I have to keep my cool because I need every stupid single vote, including his ass.
Anyways, being on the block was obviously a very bad thing, and even though Brooklyn was still Tucker's main target, he wanted Chelsie to be the backup target in case Brooklyn won the AI arena. So, Chelsie was in legitimate danger this week.
I want Brooklyn gone, but if she happens to win, Chelsie is my next choice.
However, this is where Chelsea's excellent social game came into play. Tikor felt a very strong connection towards Chelsie, so much so that she was actually willing to stick her neck out on the line in order to save her. Chelsie also started working on her connection with Rubina this week as well, and Rubina revealed in the diary room that she actually really wanted to work with Chelsie in the game. So, Tikor and Rubina started talking. They both individually felt motivated to save Chelsie this week, and once they realized the other felt the same way, they knew what they had to do. Against Tucker's wishes, Tikor started rallying the votes to ensure Chelsea's safety, and she actually got the votes to flip onto Cam in the event that it was Chelsie versus Cam come eviction night. Because of her bond with Tikor and this new bond with Rubina, Chelsie was now in a position where it didn't matter what happened in the AI arena. She'd either win it and be safe, or she'd lose but survive the vote against both Brooklyn and Cam. And that's all thanks to her impressive social abilities and these connections with Tikor and now Rubina.
If God allows me to stay here next week and I win HOH, you or him will not be my target.
I've always liked Chelsie, but her and I ended up on different sides of the house. But she's open and I'm open to working with each other instead of against each other now.
I want to keep Chelsie then.
Exactly. If Chelsie stays, that would be a really great opportunity to gain a number for me.
I think it's better to keep Chelsie over Cam.
Yeah.
In a Chelsie versus Cam scenario on the block, we will need 5 votes in order to keep us safe.
I know that you guys trust Chelsie more. I'm willing to follow you guys on that.
At this point, it's pretty clear that we have the votes to be able to keep and protect Chelsie. After the Cedric vote, for a second it was a little bit weird, but we got each other's back, and moving forward, we still want to work with each other.
Before we get to the eviction, there's one last thing that we have to talk about, and that's Leah and Mackenzie. After Tucker revealed Chelsea's alliances at the veto meeting, Leah and MJ realized that Chelsie had pretty much been playing them throughout the first couple of weeks. This naturally upset Leah, and from here on out, Leah was kind of gunning for Chelsie and became a new enemy for her. However, Mackenzie had a different reaction. For whatever reason, in spite of learning about all of Chelsea's alliances that she wasn't a part of, and in spite of Chelsie kinda neglecting her the prior week, Mackenzie went back over to Chelsie and wanted to continue working with her. I genuinely don't know why MJ did this, as it would have been much smarter for her to go and team up with Tucker's side of the house. But the work that Chelsie had previously done with Mackenzie had proven to be strong enough to regain her loyalty. And from here on out, Chelsie and Mackenzie were legit allies, and their relationship would continue to grow week after week. This was great and all, but Chelsie was still on the block next to her actual closest allies, and one of them was going to get evicted. Eviction night came, the 3 nominees readied up for the AI arena, and Chelsie won.
Congratulations, Chelsie! You have won this competition.
I am beyond proud of myself. These jokers try to get me out. Not today. How you like me now, Tucker?
It was a little sloppy, but who the heck cares? Chelsie was guaranteed safe, and she was going nowhere. Unfortunately, though, it looked to be the end for her number 1 ally. Chelsie cast a sympathy vote for Brooklyn, but she was the only one that did so, and by a vote of 8-1, Brooklyn was evicted from the Big Brother house.
Congratulations again.
Thanks, Auntie Julie. They tried to get me out. Not this soon.
All right, tell Auntie Julie who you cast your vote to evict.
I vote to evict Cam.
Brooklyn.
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 By a vote of 8-1, Brooklyn, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
What the heck? This is not how things were supposed to go. Let me just say you are one of God's greatest gifts to me. I'll see you soon, and I'm playing this game for us.
I want Quinn to win. It'll change his life.
Well, you want him to, but doesn't mean he's playing the better
Or
game.
Chelsea. I mean, Chelsea's gonna win, right? Chelsea's gonna win.
We'll see.
It had been a tough 2 weeks for Chelsie. She went from queen of the castle in week 3 to her position being fully exposed and losing back-to-back Pentagon members on top of that. However, things were trending upwards for Chelsie. Tikor was willing to burn bridges with Tucker in order to save Chelsie, proving to be a very influential and very loyal ally. And Mackenzie was an awesome number for Chelsie to pick up. Also, with Cedric and Brooklyn out, Chelsie looked way less threatening. So although it was a tough couple of weeks, Chelsie was in a fantastic position to recover from it.
Pentagon has now turned into just a straight line between me and Chelsie. That's the only person that I trust in this house. So we just gotta have each other's back and see how far we can go in this game.
I just lost 2 of my closest allies in this game, and I was just on the block. So I have to win this competition.
Going into the Week 6 HOH, Chelsie wanted to win. Unfortunately, she couldn't quite pull it out, but she still got a super favorable outcome once Tikor won the HOH. After going through so much effort to keep Chelsie in the game the prior week, she was not even going to consider putting Chelsie on the block.
I want to talk with Chelsie to let her know that she's my girl, and no matter what, she is safe.
I know who I want to protect.
Yeah.
You, Chemo, Rubina.
Yeah.
However, Chelsea's other allies weren't quite as lucky. Tikor nominated both Mackenzie and Cam for Eviction, with Mackenzie being her intended target. But she also nominated Tucker as a pawn, because Tucker volunteered once again. Tucker was someone that Chelsie absolutely wanted out of the game, but the odds were that he'd probably just win the veto, or the AI arena, or both. You never know with this guy. But a pretty favorable outcome occurred once Tucker, for the first time in 3 weeks, did not win the veto, and instead, Cam did. Even though Chelsie had good game connections with Mackenzie and Tikor, Cam was the only player that Chelsie truly trusted at this point in the game. So seeing him win the veto and guarantee his safety was such a good feeling for Chelsie. Cam took himself off the block, Tikor named Angela as the replacement nominee, and this is where things start to get exciting. Tikor still wanted Mackenzie to go home, but Chelsie didn't want to lose Mackenzie as she finally recognized how advantageous it would be for her to keep Mackenzie in the game. So, in an almost perfect mirror to the move that Tikor had organized against Chelsea's side just 2 weeks prior in order to get rid of Cedric, Chelsie began orchestrating her own move against Tikor this week in order to get rid of Tucker.
I'm starting to feel like I'm on the outs, and I need to flip this house to get power back in my favor. And I think a good way to start that is to get Tucker out of this house.
This would be a massive move in the game. Tucker was the main character of the pre-jury, without question, and a move like this would shift the power in the house back in Chelsea's favor after she had been towards the bottom for the last couple of weeks. However, Chelsie knew that she needed to be extremely careful with how she went about this plan. It felt like the likelihood of Tucker winning the AI arena was about 75%, and even that might be a low ball, so Chelsie needed to make sure that she was only rallying people who would be hush-hush about the plan and not let it get back to Tucker. Tikor, Chemo, Rubina, and Tucker had become a pretty obvious 4-person alliance, and Joseph was known to be close to Tucker too, so Chelsie established that those 5 could not know about this plan. The main issue, though, is that meant that pretty much everyone else in the house had to be on board to vote Tucker out. Otherwise, the votes just wouldn't be there. There would be 8 votes this week, meaning that Chelsie would need to secure 5 votes in order to make things happen. So, she got to work. She went to Cam first, and that was an easy yes. Then she pitched to Mackenzie and Leah. Although Leah was still a little unsure about trusting Chelsie, due to the discovery that Chelsie had hid all of these alliances from her, Leah recognized that this was a mutually beneficial move for them, because she wanted to keep Mackenzie safe, and she wanted to get rid of Tucker. So, that was 2 more votes that Chelsie could count on. Then, for the final person, she went to Quinn. And even though Tucker had saved him the week prior with the veto, Quinn was absolutely down to get his biggest enemy out of the house.
I don't want to openly campaign to get Tucker out. That might be a little bit too risky. So I kind of want to fill people out and see if we have enough votes to get Tucker out of this house.
Do you want Tucker to stay, or do you not?
Probably not.
Dang.
So it is risky, but if we have the numbers, I think we gotta do it.
Tucker, Rubina, Chemo, and Tikor. You know that those 4 are the Titans. The way you break it is Tucker.
Yeah, you have to get Tucker out.
If we have the opportunity to get him out, I think we should 100% take it.
So that's 4. All we need is 1 more.
I know where I stand. We are on the out. We have to have each other. I know, Gwen. Nobody is talking about if Mackenzie wins.
They are so scared of Tucker. When Mackenzie flips.
Yes, we have the numbers. If you're down,
I will do it if it happens.
So I'm pretty sure I have all votes, and all we have to do is execute it and get Tucker out of this house.
So, just like that, Chelsie had secured the 5 votes. But the job wasn't finished just yet. Mackenzie had to win the AI arena. If she lost it, then she wouldn't be able to vote. And not only would the numbers not be there anymore to evict Tucker, but Mackenzie herself would be evicted, and Chelsie would lose her as a number. So, it was absolutely crucial that MJ win this competition.
You have to. I know.
That was going to be a tall order, though, because Tucker was nearly unbeatable in competitions, and he had already survived 2 AI arenas. But come eviction night, against all odds, Mackenzie did beat Tucker, and she won the AI arena.
Mackenzie!
Shut up! Shut up!
Final inside. Let me protect you.
The people who thought we're running this house are about to be completely blindsided.
This was it. Exactly what Chelsie needed. Tucker remained on the block, and Chelsea's hard work and campaigning for the votes ended up being successful. By a close vote of 5-3, Tucker was blindsided and evicted from the Big Brother house in 11th place, with Chemo, Rubina, Joseph, and Tikor being left out of the plan.
Hello, Chelsie.
Is that my auntie?
It sure is. Auntie needs you to cast your vote.
I vote to evict Tucker! Finally, baby! Got him out!
Tucker.
Tucker.
Angela.
Angela.
By a vote of 5-3, Tucker, you are the 6th house guest evicted.
I'm coming
from
home,
the Big Brother house.
Chelsie had done it. She had ripped the power away from Tucker's side of the house and taken control of the game once more. And in doing so, she got rid of the single biggest threat in the game. Chelsea's road had been quite tumultuous since week 4, but in one move, she tipped the scales back into her favor, and she was poised to run things once again.
I went from the bottom to the top, and I'm just gonna keep rising. Cedric, Brooklyn, this was for you. Pentagon for life.
I know it's hard. You did so good.
The best part of all of this is that Tikor wasn't even upset with Chelsie. She knew that this was not a move against herself, but rather just a move to get rid of Tucker. And Tikor did still trust Chelsie, and she wanted to protect her in the game. So going into week 7, Chelsie was riding high.
Honestly, they made the best decision for them.
I want to protect Chemo, Rubina, Chelsie, and Quinn to the best of my abilities to get to the end of this game.
I'm at a point where I'm finally good with everybody in the house, and I don't really know if I want to draw a line in the sand.
Going into the week 7 HOH, the final round of the pre-jury, Chelsie got a pretty favorable result once Quinn won. Now, Chelsie still did not trust Quinn 100% because he had been caught lying on numerous occasions, and he was the reason that the Pentagon Alliance blew up. However, he was someone that would more than likely keep her safe this week, and they had just worked together on this move to get Tucker out, so why not keep working with him while he's in the power seat?
I want to reward the house guests that prioritized me over Tucker.
Are you kidding me? So what do you think?
I want to build something.
Yeah.
With me, you, Cam, Tikor.
We got you, Quinn.
I feel so relieved that Quinn not only is reassuring my safety, but he wants to start an alliance.
Like that. You pulled that off, dude. Thank you.
So, knowing that she was likely going to be safe, Chelsie used this week to lock in with some of her other allies, particularly Mackenzie. Chelsie and Mackenzie were both women of faith, and the idea of them sitting together in the final two was pretty powerful to them. So they actually made a final two deal this week, which was absolutely incredible for Chelsie. With Tucker out of the house, Mackenzie had silently become the best competitor left in the game, and having that player as one of your #1 allies was super advantageous.
I want the girls to be sitting at this, and I want it to be me and you. We can make it to final two. We can.
The person I want to take to the final two at the end of this game is honestly Mackenzie. I do feel I could beat Mackenzie at the end.
Speaking of Mackenzie, a trio alliance kind of naturally formed between Chelsie, Mackenzie, and Cam. Chelsie and Cam had obviously been locked in since week 1, and Cam and Mackenzie had been brewing a bond together too. So the three of them working together as a trio just made sense.
Cam, Mackenzie, Chelsie, they're a group.
As for the week, Quinn wanted to target Angela, hoping to get her out right before jury began, so he nominated Angela alongside two of the players that didn't vote Tucker out, Chemo and Rubina. Leah ended up winning the veto, and this ended up being a really spicy result. I won't get into all of the specifics because it really has nothing to do with Chelsie, but long story short, Quinn and Leah had grown very close in the game, but Angela and Leah had also grown very close. So, despite Quinn's wishes, Leah used the veto and took Angela off the block, forcing Quinn to name a replacement nominee. Even though the move to take out Tucker the week prior was thanks to Chelsie, Quinn felt that it was his move, and because of it, he felt obligated to protect everyone that helped him get rid of Tucker. Thankfully, this not only included Chelsie, but pretty much all of Chelsea's allies too. So, Quinn nominated the last remaining player who voted to keep Tucker in the game, Joseph.
Last week there was a move made. There was 5 people included in that, and so for that, I can't put those people up. That only leaves one person in this house. Joseph, I have to name you.
Now, I do quickly just want to give Chelsie a little bit of credit here because during the week, she very easily could have taken the credit for the Tucker move because it was her move. But she tactfully and intelligently allowed Quinn to think that it was his move, putting a bigger target on him and less of a target on herself. I did just want to quickly highlight it because I do think that it is important in building the picture of Chelsie being a very savvy player. Now, back to the game, Quinn was pushing hard to keep Joseph safe since he was an ally of his, and he wanted Joseph to strictly be a pawn. So the original plan was for either Chemo or Rubina to be the target, because they were both a part of the very visible Tikor, Chemo, Rubina trio that looked pretty threatening as the numbers were getting smaller and smaller. However, Chelsie wasn't sure if this is what she wanted to do.
Quinn wants to keep Joseph.
I know.
And I'm not a fan of Joseph.
Chelsie had humorously grown pretty annoyed with Joseph. In a conversation in the backyard, Joseph made a comment about how he and her were playing a very similar game. But this kind of offended Chelsie because in her eyes, Joseph had done nothing while she had been busting her butt to make moves and survive.
You and me, like we're playing the same.
Are you talking to me? I've won an HOH. I gathered my troops to get your biggest ally out of this game. What have you done? Delusional.
Also, the two of them hadn't really been working together since like week 2 or 3, so going into the eviction, she legitimately hadn't made up her mind.
If keeping Joseph here is better for Quinn and Cam's game, fine. But I'm not here to play their game. I'm here to play my game. And that might mean sending Joseph home.
Once Rubina won the AI arena, it did look as though Chemo was about to get evicted over Joseph in a vote of 5-2, with only Tikor and Rubina voting against Joseph. But then something unprecedented happened. During his final plea, Chemo gave one of the most emotional and heartfelt pitches in the history of the show, and it hit Chelsie right in the heart and fully confirmed to her that she was no longer going to be evicting Chemo. She would be evicting Joseph. Joseph wasn't someone that she really wanted to keep in the game anyways. He was kind of a snaky player, and Chelsie wasn't that close to him. So, in this moment, Chelsie decided that she was going to play her own game and not make her decision for anyone else. And when it was time for her to vote, she did actually vote to save Chemo, and she voted out Joseph. Chelsie thought that there was a chance that Angela might vote out Joseph too, because they had a bit of a public tiff this week. So with this flipped vote, Chelsie hoped it would be enough to send Joseph home in a vote of 4-3. Unfortunately, Angela didn't vote to evict Joseph. She voted to evict Chemo, meaning that even with her own flip, the vote would still be 4-3 to send Chemo home. But, at the very least, Chelsie was playing for herself. Julie then came on to announce the evicted house guest, and by a vote of 4-3, Joseph was evicted from the Big Brother house. It turns out that Chelsie wasn't the only one that was moved by Chemo's speech. Mackenzie also changed her mind at the very last second and decided to keep Chemo too, because both Chelsie and Mackenzie independently flipped their votes. It was enough to save Chemo and send Joseph home, sniping him out of the game right before the jury phase started.
I'm not ready for this dream to end. I really want to play this game. I want to provide a visibility representation for who I am as a queer person, as a native Hawaiian. I love you all. Please keep me in this house.
When I heard Chemo, his speech and his posture in those final minutes, there's no way I could send somebody like him home.
Hello, Chelsie.
What's up, Auntie Julie?
Please cast your vote to evict.
I sadly vote to evict Joseph.
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 Chemo.
Chemo.
By a vote of 4-3, Joseph, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
Good job, guys.
This was one of the most confusing votes that I have ever seen. But in the end, Chelsie did get the best possible result. With that, the AI Arena twist was now over. There would only be the standard 2 nominees each week. The jury phase was now starting, and we are finally at the mid-game.
At the end of the day, I have to look out for myself. I've been protecting other people, and it's high time that I make decisions to protect myself.
Now, before we get to the final 9 HOH, let me just take a quick second to give you an updated overview of the house structure. This wasn't like a normal season where there are 2 sides of a house, but rather there were 3 sets of trios that saw some overlap, kind of like a Venn diagram. Firstly, there was the trio of Chelsie, Mackenzie, and Cam. Then there was another trio of Tikor, Chemo, and Rubina. Because Chelsie had Tikor as her ally, and because Chelsie had just voted to save Chemo at the very last minute, Chelsie didn't have to worry about that trio coming after her, which put her in a really solid position. And then, for the final trio, if you could call it that, you had Leah, Quinn, and Angela. However, this wasn't really a strong trio, and rather it was just Leah having a final 2 connection with both Quinn and Angela, making it a trio by association, kinda, but I think you get the idea. Even though Chelsie had just fully blindsided Quinn here and sent home one of his closest allies, it seemed that he still wanted to work with her. So all in all, Chelsie had influence in all 3 of the trios. Going into the final 9 HOH, Chelsie wanted to win it. That last round was pretty crazy, and Chelsie had blindsided quite a few people by flipping her vote. So having the power in her hands and getting the safety that came with it was something that she for sure wanted. Plus, Cam was a bit upset that he had just voted incorrectly and that Chelsie didn't give him a heads up that she was flipping her vote. So she wanted to win this and prove to Cam through her actions that she was still 100% aligned with him and that the move legitimately was a last-second decision.
I need Cam to know in this moment that I really made a game time decision.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that was tough. That was a tough one.
My A1 Day 1 flip sides on me. Now Chelsie puts my game in an extremely vulnerable position.
I just went against my closest allies, and I don't really know where I stand in this house. So the best thing I can do is win this HOH to ensure my safety another week.
The HOH was a quiz based on some video clips they were shown the night before, and in a close 4-way tiebreaker, Chelsie was the closest to the correct answer, and she won the final 9 HOH.
Congratulations, Chelsie! You are the new head of household.
Number 2, baby! Let's go! Listen, I didn't come here to play. I came here to win, baby!
This was her second HOH win of the season, and she could not have been happier to win it. The 2 people that Chelsie had her eyes on were Angela and Leah. Not only because they were the two players that Chelsie had the least connection and influence over at this point, but because Leah was kind of shaping up to be a threat to Chelsea's game. Leah had a solid amount of influence over the likes of Quinn, Angela, seemingly even Cam at times, and she also had her beginning of the game connection with Mackenzie. In a way, Leah was Chelsie, but just on a different side of the house, and that made her a threat. However, that's kind of a statement move and would draw a huge line in the sand, and Chelsie wasn't sure if that's a path that she wanted to go down just yet, at least before the veto was played. So Chelsie decided to play it safer, and she nominated Angela and Chemo instead, with Chemo being the pawn.
With jury now in play, I can't make a wrong move. Leah, she's a social player, so she wants to be close to everybody. So as I'm hearing her go in circles, I'm actually considering her as an option of a person I want to nominate. Do I put up Chemo as pawn, or do I make a bigger move and put Leah up on the block?
I have nominated you, Chemo, and you, Angela.
If Angela or Chemo take themselves off the block, I'm not too worried because Leah might be in for a rude awakening.
Mackenzie ended up winning the veto, which was a great outcome for Chelsie, since that was like her number one ally, and it kept her in control.
I'm happy that Mackenzie won this. I know she will do whatever I want with this power of veto. The power is still in my control.
Now, after the veto results, Angela saw Quinn and Leah hanging out in the backyard with T-Cor's trio, and she went and told Chelsie that those five must be in an alliance and that they need to target them. This wasn't true, and rather this was just Angela being her usual chaotic self, and Chelsie was pretty quickly able to determine that Angela was lying to her, but it did actually get Chelsie to start thinking about how maybe a bigger move than taking out Angela should be made this week. Chelsie already had Leah on her radar, so she was a potential player to put on the block, but then Chelsie started thinking that maybe she should target somebody like Quinn. Those were two strong players that had both proven to be decent at competitions, so why not take the opportunity to get one of them out?
Quinn and Leah solidified something with T-Core, Chemo, and Rubina.
Sometimes Angela creates stories that aren't necessarily true. However, let's not forget, Quinn blew up an alliance, the Pentagon.
I don't know if there was an alliance formed.
Whether or not there actually is an alliance doesn't actually matter. What matters is that Quinn is a far more dangerous player than Chemo or Angela.
So, use it on Angela.
I am more than willing to put up a much bigger target, so Quinn and Leah, watch your back.
Chelsie and Mackenzie talked through the options, and in the end, they decided that Quinn was the bigger threat than Leah, and that they were going to take the shot at him. While I do personally feel that Leah was a bigger threat to Chelsea's personal game, I do also see the merit in targeting Quinn, as he seemed like the better competitor, and he was a very skilled social player. So, at the veto meeting, Mackenzie used the veto to save Angela, and Chelsie named Quinn the replacement nominee in a somewhat blindside. This was a big move, and Chelsie was showing the house that she wasn't afraid to get her hands a little dirty.
I have decided to use the power of veto on Angela.
So I'm sorry, Quinn. I have to put you up on the block.
Putting up Quinn is merely a strategic move. He's a wild card, he's a really good player, and this might just be the best time to get him out.
Now, throughout the week, Quinn had actually done a really good job campaigning to Chelsie as to why she should keep him, and Chelsie actually wavered on whether to send Quinn home or Chemo home, but Cam helped keep Chelsea's head straight, and they stuck with the plan to evict Quinn. Now, keeping the trio of T-Core, Chemo, and Rubina intact going into the final 8 did sound very scary, but it actually was the smartest thing for Chelsie to do at this point. For starters, that trio was being led by T-Core, and under T-Core's guidance, they were never going to target Chelsie, meaning that Chelsie was safe by those three. Also, by leaving that trio in the game, they become the biggest threat left in the house. So if Angela or Leah were to win the next HOH, they likely couldn't go after Chelsie because they would feel forced to take a shot at the trio, which would keep Chelsie safe, and it meant that the trio was effectively a shield for Chelsie. The humor in all of this is that Chelsie was in an arguably much more dangerous trio than the T-Core trio. However, they weren't nearly as prominent and obvious about being in a trio as T-Core's trio was. So Chelsie was getting the best of both worlds. She was in a powerful alliance and she wasn't being targeted. So, overall, getting Quinn out, who was both capable and dangerous in competitions and social maneuverability, was a good move for Chelsie to make. However, Chelsie and her group never actually ended up telling Quinn, Leah, or Angela that they weren't keeping him. So when eviction night came, it was blindside time. Only Leah and Angela voted to keep Quinn, with everyone else voting against Quinn, and by a vote of 4-2, Quinn was evicted from the Big Brother house, and he became the first member of the jury.
Hello, Cam.
Jerry, how we living?
Please cast your vote to evict.
I vote to evict Quinn.
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 Chemo.
By a vote of 4-2, Quinn, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
It was so tough voting Quinn out this week. I love the guy. However, the strategic side of me knew that that's the wisest thing to do.
After Quinn's eviction, the house guests were told to go into the backyard for a party at Janky World, which ended up being a twist that forced the house guests to live in the backyard for the entire week of the final 8 round. Going into the HOH comp, Chelsie had her fingers crossed that Cam or Mackenzie could pull out the win.
There are only 2 people I know will not put me on the block, and that is Cam and Mackenzie.
But instead, she got the worst case scenario. Leah, the person who she had just blindsided the most by sending Quinn home, won the final 8 endurance HOH. During the final 9, Chelsie didn't exactly do the greatest job of managing Leah. In fact, she kinda did the opposite, and Leah knew that Chelsie had considered putting her on the block instead of Quinn. So Leah and Angela had concocted a plan to nominate who they considered to be the heads of each trio if they won the power, that being T-Core and Chelsie.
I'm very nervous. I was going after Leah last week, and she knows. So I can easily be going up on the block this week if she wants to get payback.
I really like Chelsie as a person, but I also see her as a threat in this game.
This would have been Leah's optimal move, and Chelsie should have been in serious danger here. But Leah didn't do it. This was mainly due to a mix of 3 things. 1, Chelsie gave her a pitch and promised not to put her up the following week if she won HOH. 2, because Chelsie didn't actually put her up the prior week, Leah felt a false sense of security with Chelsie and felt that they could potentially work together moving forward. And 3, both Mackenzie and Cam helped lead Leah away from nominating Chelsie and in the direction of the other trio. So Leah ended up nominating Chemo and Rubina for eviction, and Chelsie dodged her first major bullet.
What I will guarantee next week is I get to play. You don't touch the block. They control the majority. It's imperative that power structure is broken up.
Since she didn't put me on the block last week, I feel like she's willing to work with me and not against me.
I have nominated you, Rubina, and you, Chemo.
I am so relieved I am not on the block this week, especially considering I just got out Leah's closest ally, Quinn.
The veto competition for this week actually saw 2 vetoes up for grabs, where Angela won the first veto and Leah won the second veto, which was called the Janky veto, where Leah would have to win a competition before the veto ceremony in order to be able to use it. Once again, this was like the worst comp outcome that Chelsie could have gotten, because if Leah and Angela wanted to, they could use their vetoes and make the move against Chelsie and send her packing. But once again, they chose not to. Leah lost the Janky veto challenge, meaning that she couldn't use her veto anyways, but she wasn't actually going to use it even if she won the challenge. However, Angela actually did use her veto, and she used it to save Chemo because she felt bad for trying to evict him the prior 2 weeks. And instead of nominating Chelsie, Leah chose to nominate T-Core.
It is sad to see T-Core go up on the block because we have become close friends and have developed a game relationship. So I will be voting to keep T-Core here.
Now, I do want to give Chelsie a little bit of credit for leaving the trio in the week prior and evicting Quinn. Had Chelsie evicted Chemo over Quinn, then T-Cor's trio would not have been nearly as prominent of a threat as Chelsie. So, in that timeline, there is a very, very strong likelihood that Chelsie is Leah's target and Chelsie goes home. But because she kept the trio intact the week prior, this made it so that Leah had to target that trio out of fear that they would just have the numbers, allowing Chelsie to survive a week that she really should have been in danger.
Leah being the one to take the shot at the trio is exactly how I wanted this to go. I didn't want to be the one that took the shot because I want them on my side.
However, I do think Chelsie got pretty lucky this week too. It's at this point that I should probably mention the intricacies of Chelsea's relationship with Cam. Throughout the season, Chelsie seemed to be crushing on Cam a little bit, and it seemed like she thought the feeling was reciprocated, even though it wasn't in actuality. Whenever Cam would get close to people like Leah or Mackenzie, Chelsie would get a little bit jealous, and she didn't really handle it that well and made it obvious to everyone that she was upset with Cam. Luckily, Cam and Chelsea's game relationship was rock solid, and it didn't suffer too much from this personal tiff, but it certainly could have, and that's not great gameplay from Chelsie.
Cam has been my closest ally since the beginning of this game, but at this point, I think he's finding any and every reason to just be snuggled up next to Mackenzie. I'm quite done with it.
I'm confused.
What are we even arguing for in public? You're supposed to be the one person in this game. Do you want to still work with me?
In a backwards way, though, this might have actually helped the perception in the house that Chelsie and Cam weren't actually as close as they really were. But that wasn't Chelsea's intention, and she really was just pissed at Cam and made it very apparent. So instead of really fighting for her survival and path moving forward this week, she spent a lot of time in Janky World just shunning Cam, which wasn't good.
Why did you get so mad at me for?
Because you were being annoying and you were being a jerk.
Another thing that wasn't good was that T-Cor, one of Chelsea's reliable allies, was now sitting on the block and possibly being targeted. There were only 5 votes this week, and since Chelsie, Cam, and Mackenzie were all off of the block, they controlled the majority and they were able to dictate who went home. Chelsie obviously wanted Rubina to be evicted so that T-Cor would be safe, but Cam and Mackenzie disagreed. They recognized that keeping T-Cor in the house would only benefit Chelsie, and in turn would actually hurt their own games. So, Cam and Mackenzie decided that they were going to keep Rubina in the game and vote out T-Cor, as this would cut Chelsea's ties with that trio, and then they would have Chelsie all to themselves.
I don't think anyone is going to get T-Cor.
T-Cor will win this thing.
T-Cor has a very good relationship with Chelsie. Kind of makes me feel like T-Cor is her backup final 2. And I'm thinking maybe voting out T-Cor will force Chelsie to trust me again, or at this point make it worse. I don't know.
Chelsie initially tried fighting back on this, but Cam and Mackenzie didn't fold to the pressure, and Chelsie didn't get her way this week. So, when eviction night came, Chelsie bent to the will of her allies and voted for T-Cor to leave, and by a vote of 4-1, she was evicted in 8th place.
Hi, Chelsie.
Auntie Julie, I loved and missed you.
Thank you. Please cast your vote to evict.
I sadly vote to evict T-Cor.
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 Rubina.
By a vote of 4-1, T-Cor, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
T-Cor, this is not what I wanted at all. Unfortunately, the house saw you as a threat. I love you so much, and I'll see you soon.
Overall, this was one of Chelsea's worst weeks in the house. She was almost nominated, she spent a lot of the week arguing with Cam, and then she didn't even get her way with the vote and lost one of her closest allies that was protecting her on the other side of the house. But I'm sure living outside for the entire week played a factor in how Chelsie handled the game this week. And at the end of the day, she managed to survive a Leah HOH without even touching the block. So that's gotta be worth something. One last thing to note here is that even though Chemo was the one who voted for T-Cor to stay, T-Cor thought that it was actually Chelsie, which felt like a really good indicator at who T-Cor felt most loyal to deep down. And it was a good sign that T-Cor might vote for Chelsie to win against anyone in the final 2, including the members of her own trio.
Do you think Chelsie voted for you, Say?
That would be my guess. I believe that Chelsie is playing the best game thus far. She managed to insulate herself, and she has 2 HOHs under her belt.
The house guests were able to go back inside following T-Core's eviction, and they immediately went into the Final 7 HOH comp. Chelsie was gunning for the HOH win, but if she couldn't win it herself, she was praying that either Cam or Mackenzie could pull it off instead. Chelsie didn't end up winning the HOH, but Mackenzie did instead. Because Chelsie had a final 2 with Mackenzie, she knew that she was safe, so now it was just a matter of how much she could influence Mackenzie to get what she wanted out of the week. Initially, Mackenzie wanted to target Angela, so she nominated Chemo and Angela for the week, with both of them thinking that they were the pawns to get the other one out. Getting Angela out would have been fine for Chelsea's game, but she was hoping that she could convince Mackenzie to make an even bigger move. Taking out Leah.
I am coming for Leah's head.
Leah needs to go this week. She's playing this game really well, and no one seems to notice. I'm happy that Mackenzie wants to put Angela up on the block, but Leah needs to be seeing the block too.
Don't you forget, half holy, half hood.
Leah was Chelsea's biggest threat left in the game. If Leah was out of the house, then Chelsea's path to the end would be as clear as it had ever been. However, on paper, this would be a very hard sell. And it felt super unlikely that Chelsie would be able to pull this off. From pretty much the very beginning of the game, Mackenzie and Leah had been a pair, and even though they separated into their different trios around the mid-game, they still had a very close bond and had each other's backs. Think along the lines of Chelsie and T-Core. So, convincing Mackenzie to turn her back on Leah and nominate her at the veto ceremony was quite the tall order. But Chelsie was up for the challenge. One of Chelsea's greatest strengths in the game was her persuasive ability and how she managed to get her way most weeks without her allies feeling like she was the one dictating everything. What Chelsie would do is that at the beginning of the week, she would feign that she was down for pretty much whatever plan her allies came up with. This way, her allies were happy with her, and they felt that Chelsie was on board with them. Then, after a couple days would go by, Chelsie would pivot and start planting the seeds for what she actually wanted to have happen that week. She would also gather the numbers ahead of time, so then when she presented the new plan to someone who was on the fence, she could point out that she already had the votes to make it happen, making it much more likely that the person she was pitching to would be down to go along with it. This is what she did when she got Tucker out, and now this is what she was doing to try and get Leah out. So, at the beginning of the week, Chelsie was telling Mackenzie that she was super down for the plan to get rid of Angela and that this would be a great move for them to make. But in the meantime, she was already working on Cam and convincing him that Leah needed to go.
I feel like Angela needs to go. Angela needs to go.
Best believe I'm doing everything in my power to convince Mackenzie to send Leah home over Angela. I'm gonna need some backup, so hopefully Cam can help me out here.
She just doesn't want to be the one to take the shot at Leah.
I would do that.
I would do that.
Cam and I are on the same page. We just need to figure out an angle to take to try to get Leah out of this house.
Throughout the week, Chelsie would pitch to Mackenzie that maybe Leah should be the target. And although Mackenzie was not down at first, Chelsie never relented.
Chelsie would like to see Leah go. However, Leah and I are just super, super close. So for my own game and for jury management, I cannot put Leah up.
This one will express
Well, that's the
loyalty to whoever has power that week. And she had a final 2 with Brooklyn. And then her and Quinn, Joseph and her.
She said that she didn't ever have anything with Joseph.
Yes, she did. Damn. She told me that during my HOH.
Leah is playing a better game than I thought.
Leah better be shaking in her boots.
Like, I don't think I have the heart to do it.
Mackenzie ended up winning the veto, which kept all of the power on Chelsea's side. And then, at the perfect moment, the final ingredient that Chelsie needed fell right into her lap. Leah had been opening up to Rubina about how she regretted not taking the shot at Chelsie during Janky Week. Rubina then told Mackenzie this information, and then Mackenzie told Chelsie this. Chelsie quickly was able to twist this to her advantage and plant seeds of doubt and worry into Mackenzie's head. If Leah is telling this to Rubina, then that means Leah is trying to team up with Rubina. With Rubina comes Chemo, so that means if you leave Leah in the game, you're basically leaving in a trio. And now they would have the numbers advantage going into the final 6 HOH.
Leah saying that Chelsie needs to go worries me big time because Chelsie is my biggest ally.
This is just the opening that I needed. I may have not won the golden power of veto, but I have my words, which I think could be even more powerful.
She's gonna try to do them 3 us 3. She doesn't have your back, not what. So you have to take it while there's an opportunity. And I think you would gain the respect of the house and jury making that move.
So I am starting to see Chelsea's point.
Hold up. This is actually kind of working. If it does, what a hell of a move on my end.
Chelsie very effectively showcased how leaving Leah in the game could now threaten Mackenzie's position. And since Chelsie also had Cam backing her up on this, it was finally enough to convince Mackenzie to make the move. At the veto ceremony, Mackenzie used the veto to save Chemo, and she blindsided Leah by naming her the replacement nominee.
Leah, I'm gonna have to name you as replacement nominee.
This is amazing. Mackenzie did exactly what I wanted her to do. I know Leah was coming for me, but I'm gonna get her out first.
For what it's worth, this was an absolutely terrible move for Mackenzie's game, which makes it all the more impressive that Chelsie was able to pull it off. Chelsie had done a lot of stuff so far throughout the game, but this right here was her finest hour, and Chelsea's win equity rose tremendously. You know what the best part about this was, though? Now that Mackenzie had made this huge move, she was now being viewed as the biggest threat left in the house. Angela and Chemo were now looking to target Mackenzie moving forward, which is nuts since Mackenzie had used the veto to save both of them across the last couple of weeks. And this meant that Chelsie, who was actually the one who orchestrated and puppeteered this whole move, had nobody coming after her in the next round. And that was the perfect spot for her to be in.
Is this the best move for Mackenzie's game right now? I don't know, but it's best for mine.
Then, just to make sure she had all of her bases covered, Chelsie and Cam made a secret Final Four deal with Chemo and Rubina that would pretty much guarantee Chelsea's safety in the coming round. The only problem was, as I stated, most people were gunning for Mackenzie now. Mackenzie was Chelsea's most loyal soldier in the game, and losing her at the final 6 would be a pretty big hit for her. So that was something that Chelsie needed to consider as they approached the next round. Anyways, Leah tried her best to flip the votes in her favor, but it was to no avail. Eviction night soon came, and for the first time all season, a unanimous vote occurred, and Leah was evicted in a vote of 4-0 in 7th place.
Hello, Chelsie.
Hi, Auntie Julie.
Tell Auntie, who do you vote to evict?
I sadly vote to evict Leah.
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 By a vote of 4-0, Leah, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
Now, not only was it time for the endgame to start, but it also just so happened to be double eviction night.
Does everyone understand the rules?
Yes.
Excellent. Then let's begin.
Going into the double eviction, Chelsie wanted to win this HOH. Having control of the double would practically guarantee that she would have a 3-2 numbers advantage going into the final 5, which would increase her winning chances drastically. The HOH was a quiz comp, and Chelsie took an early lead. However, Angela came back and forced a tiebreaker between the two of them. This was a season-defining tiebreaker, and the player who came out on top was Chelsie.
Congratulations, Chelsie! You are the new head of household.
This was Chelsea's 3rd HOH of the season, and now she had control over the double eviction. Although she did consider breaking up the pair of Chemo and Rubina, Angela had proven to just be too scary of a competitor. She literally almost just beat her in the HOH. Therefore, Angela needed to go. So Chelsie nominated Angela and Chemo for eviction, with Chemo as the pawn, which was a smart move. Chemo was the most likely person to use the veto on Angela if he were to win it, so by nominating him alongside her, Chelsie eliminated that risk. It's a good thing she did so too, because Chemo actually did end up winning the veto. Chemo tried convincing Chelsie to put up Mackenzie, but Chelsie didn't listen, and she put up Rubina instead, which 100% was the right call. It was then time for the second eviction of the night, and finally, Angela had run out of lives, and she was evicted in a unanimous vote of 3-0.
I don't want to take any chances on Chemo returning the favor and using the veto on Angela, so he needs to go up right next to Angela.
I'm sorry, Angela. I'm sorry, Chemo. Have to see you guys sit there.
Oh, congratulations, Chemo!
I know Chemo wants me to put Mackenzie up, but sorry, Chemo, that's not gonna happen.
Rubina, love you. You know where I stand.
Hello again, Cam.
What's up?
Please cast your vote to evict.
I vote to evict Angela.
Angela.
By a vote of 3-0, Angela, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
In one fell swoop, Chelsie succeeded in getting rid of both Leah and Angela within 30 minutes of each other, and the end was completely in sight.
After this double eviction, the reality is I feel like I'm setting myself up well for the future.
Going into the final five, Chelsie needed Cam or Mackenzie to pull off the HOH win. If Chemo or Rubina won the HOH, Chelsie would likely see the block, as there were so few numbers left in the house, and she very well could be evicted in that spot. Luckily, Chemo and Rubina both performed super poorly in the HOH comp, and Mackenzie won instead.
Let's go! Girls are taking over! Yeah!
Mackenzie nominated Chemo and Rubina for eviction, obviously, and then Mackenzie won the veto as well, securing once again that all the power would remain in Chelsea's corner. Now, there was a brief conversation had about potentially nominating Cam this week, because Chelsie and Mackenzie were convinced that Cam was throwing competition so that he could avoid getting any blood on his hands and force Mackenzie and Chelsie to do all the dirty work. For the record, this wasn't actually true. Cam was, surprisingly, just not very good at competitions. While Mackenzie was very seriously considering this move, Chelsie recognized that regardless of whether or not he was throwing comps, Cam was still good for her game. So she went and talked with Cam, told him the situation, and urged him to go and smooth things over with Mackenzie so that she didn't throw him on the block.
At the end of the day, I want to go to the final three with both Cam and Mackenzie because I believe they will both take me to the final two. So Cam needs to get in front of this.
Thankfully, this worked, and after Cam spoke with Mackenzie, she backed down from the idea, and she chose not to use the veto, which, surprisingly, was the first time all season that the veto hadn't been used. So, Chemo and Rubina were locked in as the final nominees, and this is where things, once again, get a little interesting. Rubina had been pitching to NJ and Chelsie that they should have an all-women final three, which Chelsie was clearly able to read between the lines and saw this as Rubina trying to cling on to anything that would save her, but at the same time, that would still be pretty good for Chelsie, as it was just another potential path to the final three. So the initial plan was to evict Chemo and bring Rubina into the final four. However, the night before the eviction, Cam started pitching to Chelsie that they should keep Chemo in the game. This is because Cam was secretly worried that the three women were wanting to have an all-women final three, and at first, it seemed like Chelsie actually relented and the plan had flipped in order to save Chemo.
Getting rid of her. Yeah, it weakens Mackenzie.
Whoa, hold on, you've been thinking, Cam? This is just fresh to my ears.
But at the last minute, Chelsie flipped back to the plan to evict Chemo, and unlike the week that Tikor went home, Chelsie was able to convince Cam to go with her, and she got her way. When the eviction approached, Chelsie voted to keep Rubina in the house, and by a vote of 2-0, Chemo was evicted in 5th place.
Hello, Chelsie.
What's up, Auntie Julie?
Tell Auntie, who do you vote to evict?
I sadly vote to evict Chemo.
Chemo.
By a vote of 2-0, Chemo, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
Going into the Final Four HOH comp, Chelsie wanted to win badly. With the way that the Final Four HOH works, you basically just get free immunity for the round and a ticket to finale night. Plus, it was imperative that Rubina didn't win this HOH, because then the trio would have to turn on each other, and Chelsie wanted to go to the final 3 with Mackenzie and Cam. So when the HOH comp began, Chelsie was locked in. She started off the competition in a pretty bad spot, but she went on a hot streak towards the end, and she ended up winning the final 4 HOH.
Chelsie, with 3 points, you are the new head of household. I am not usually this emotional. 4th HOH, final 3, let's go! Ah!
This was huge. Chelsie was guaranteed a spot in the final 3. She didn't have to worry about getting any blood on her hands this week. She didn't have to worry about getting evicted. And to top it all off, this was her 4th HOH win of the season, which tied her for the single season record. She was high-key a beast at these competitions, and it was helping her get to the end of the game. Now, nominations don't really matter at the final 4, but Chelsie wanted to try and squeeze any possible advantage she could get out of it. So, she actually nominated Cam and Mackenzie for eviction and kept Rubina off of the block.
I don't know if I want to put Rubina up on the block, because if she's in the final 3 and just so happens to win the last HOH, she can remember this move I made.
I have nominated you, Cam, and you, Mackenzie.
Oh my gosh, I can breathe again.
Chelsie still wanted Rubina gone this week, but this was a cheeky way for Chelsie to cover her bases just in case Rubina somehow survived this round. Originally, it seemed that Rubina would only survive if she herself won the veto, but Cam then revealed to Chelsie that he actually wanted to take the shot at Mackenzie if he won the veto. This was a bit of a hiccup, because Chelsie wanted Mackenzie in the end, so going into the veto, the outcome was actually very important. However, Chelsie didn't actually want to win the veto herself, because then she would have to get blood on her hands, so once Rubina was eliminated, Chelsie threw the competition and let Mackenzie and Cam battle it out.
Mission accomplished. Rubina is out of this competition, and now my work here is done. I do not want to win.
Now, I do think this is actually a mistake from Chelsie, because this did leave the door open for Cam to win the veto and evict Mackenzie. I personally feel that the benefit of keeping Mackenzie safe and bringing her to the final 3 is worth getting a little bit of blood on your hands in this final 4 round. However, Chelsie decided to risk it in the hopes of getting her best case scenario. Cam initially had the lead in the veto comp, but in the end, Mackenzie pulled out the victory, winning the final veto of the summer, and meaning that Chelsie's risk paid off. Mackenzie was now in the final 3 with her, and Chelsie got absolutely 0 blood on her hands. Now, yet another little wrench was thrown into Chelsea's easy week once Mackenzie started talking about possibly evicting Cam here and taking Rubina into the final 3. Honestly, this probably was the best move that MJ could make, because Rubina was going to take MJ to the final 2, whereas Cam was much closer to Chelsie and would take her to the end. But Chelsie did what she does best, and she went into manipulation overdrive.
It sounds like Mackenzie's leaning towards evicting Cam, and that is not good for my game. It's time for me to work my magic.
She talked about how much of a final 2 threat Rubina was, and how she would not want to sit next to her in the end, especially in comparison to someone like Cam, who they had been carrying through the game.
If I were you, I'm thinking about likability. She will have an immediate 2 votes. With Cam, I think he would lose.
Chelsie is making a lot of good points here.
It took a little bit of work, but Chelsea's pushing proved to be successful, and Mackenzie was back on board to bring Cam into the final 3. So Mackenzie pulled herself off the block, Rubina went up in her place as the only possible option, and Mackenzie cast the sole vote to evict Rubina in 4th place.
I came into this house wanting to be a loyal player. That being said, Rubina, I'm so sorry, but I am gonna have to evict you tonight.
Rubina, I hope your dream comes true in a girl winning BB this season. So much love to you, and I'll talk to you soon.
With that, Chelsie entered the final 3 with her trio, and all that stood between her and the final 2 chairs was one last HOH comp.
It feels so phenomenal to be in the final 3. This is a superfan's dream come true.
Cam, Mackenzie, Chelsie. This was it. The final 3 players. To give you an idea of where everyone stood, here's what each player was going to do in the event that they won the final HOH. If Chelsie won, she was going to honor her final 2 deal with Mackenzie and take her to the end. If Mackenzie won, she too was going to honor her final 2 deal with Chelsie and take her to the end. And if Cam won, he was going to take Chelsie to the end. What this meant was that it didn't matter what happened in this final 3 round. Chelsie was guaranteed to make it to the final 2. But she still wanted to win the competition so that she could make the decision on who came to the end with her.
I have Cam in the final 3 with me, alongside with Mackenzie, who have both said they would take me to the final 2.
Surprisingly, Chelsie managed to beat both Cam and Mackenzie in the Part 1 endurance comp, which automatically advanced her to Part 3. Then Mackenzie beat Cam in Part 2, meaning that the final 2 was basically already set before Part 3 even took place. While most players would be content knowing that they were basically guaranteed Final 2, Chelsie isn't most players. So instead of relaxing and waiting for the finale, she continued to work, and she began manipulating Mackenzie once more. Mackenzie was feeling mighty confident that she would win if she was in the final 2 due to all the competitions that she had won. And Chelsie fed right into this. When talking about Final 2 speeches, Chelsie would feign that she hadn't prepared anything, and that Mackenzie wouldn't really need to prepare anything either, because her game speaks for itself. This made Mackenzie feel really comfortable, and because of it, she legitimately didn't really prepare any speeches for the end. All the while, Chelsie was preparing what she would say, which is just another example of Chelsie directly outplaying Mackenzie and getting another leg up on her. So Chelsie was ready to speak to the jury once finale night approached. But before we can get there, we gotta get to Part 3 first. In this competition, the 2 women were neck and neck the whole way through, and when it came down to the final question, Chelsie was the first to come up with the correct answer. But at the very last second, Chelsie second-guessed herself, and she went with a different answer, leading to her getting the question wrong and crowning Mackenzie as the final HOH instead. Crazily enough, this marked the first time all season that Chelsie was on the block facing an eviction vote. But she knew that she was safe. Mackenzie stood up to cast the final vote of the summer, and she stuck true to her word, evicting Cam in 3rd place and taking Chelsie with her to the final 2.
Last week I made a decision based off loyalty, and this week I'm going to do the exact same. Cam, I absolutely love you, but I am going to have to evict you.
Thank you so much. I love you.
Just like that, Chelsie was about to face the jury for a chance to win $750,000 and the title of Big Brother 26's champion. The only player that stood in her way was her ride-or-die Final 2 ally, Mackenzie.
Let's do this dang thing. I didn't practice any speeches.
Although Chelsie had played a better game than Mackenzie, Mackenzie had a stellar competitive resume and a pretty wild story. So this was by no means an easy win in Chelsea's eyes. And she knew that she needed to articulate and lay out key moments throughout the season that helped get her into the final 2. She explained to Angela how she held so much information throughout the season, but that she was smart with it. She knew when to reveal this information to others while also knowing when to keep it to herself. Next, she explained to Rubina that even though she won competitions, it was never because she had to, but rather because she wanted to. Then the perfect opportunity to discredit Mackenzie's game fell right into her lap. Mackenzie had just answered a question stating that evicting Leah was solely her move and that she wasn't influenced by anyone else. Only for Chelsie to then explain to Tikor how she actually put in many hours to influence Mackenzie into turning her back on Leah and evicting her, while also throwing it in there that Mackenzie couldn't stand Angela. This not only completely undermined Mackenzie's last answer and made Chelsie look like the mastermind, but it also turned Angela more against Mackenzie, as she now knew that Mackenzie didn't actually like her in the house. Finally, to wrap it all up, Chelsie gave a lights-out final speech. She explained that she came into this game not wanting to ever be in a spot where she had to win a competition. She put in hours and hours of work to build up incredible social relationships with key players in the house to ensure that her position would always be one of safety and power. She navigated her way to the final three in a spot where she knew that both Cam and Mackenzie would bring her to the final two. She even did some math and told the jurors that her competition winning percentage was actually higher than Mackenzie's. So if you want to vote for the best competitor, you better think twice about who that actually is. She was social, she was strategic, she was skillful, and she was a diamond. No matter how you looked at her game, from the biggest picture to the smallest of details, it was always beautiful, just like a diamond.
Jury, I was strategic, I was social, I was skillful. I've had 6 competition wins. I've put up 12 nominees, 8 house guests, yet still I had only seen the block once. I believe I was a diamond. You could look at me from multiple perspectives and say, that was beautiful. I didn't have to win. I knew I was gonna be sitting in this seat because I knew my social game was strong. That is why you should choose me. I came here, I said, Chelsie, you don't have to play hard, you just have to play smart. And that's what I did. Thank you in advance for those who choose to pick me as the winner. Love y'all.
And with that, her game was complete. Her fate now lied in the hands of the 7-person jury. Chelsie's answers to the jury questions, as well as her final speech, were just so good. She even had Julie smirking right from the get-go. So, after the jurors had cast their votes and it was time for Julie to reveal the winner, it wasn't even close. Quinn voted for Chelsie. T-Core voted for Chelsie. Leah voted for Chelsie, and Angela voted for Chelsie. Just like that, history had been made. By a unanimous vote of 7-0, Chelsie Baham was crowned the winner of Big Brother 26.
T-Core has cast her vote for Chelsie. Quinn has cast his vote for Chelsie. Leah has cast her vote for Chelsie. Congratulations, Chelsie! You are the winner of Big Brother.
From start to finish, Chelsie showed that she could play an adaptive, dominant game, and she could thrive from both the top and the bottom. She started out the game in the large 8-person collective alliance, and she was insulated perfectly in this grouping, as she had her 5-person Pentagon alliance, as well as her 3-person core alliance. The first few weeks went swimmingly for Chelsie, and she was probably the best positioned player at this point. Unfortunately, things took a turn for the worse in week 4. She lost her 2 closest allies back-to-back in Cedric and Brooklyn, and her position was completely exposed to the entire house. But a well-timed T-Core HOH helped her regain her footing, and she was able to orchestrate a move to blindside Tucker that put herself back in the driver's seat. From here, Chelsie was able to get rid of some of the wild cards that could have been big threats to her game, like Joseph and Quinn. Things looked a little bit dicey once Leah won the final 8 HOH, but Chelsie managed to survive it, albeit taking a bit of a hit once her close ally T-Core was evicted. However, from here, Chelsie took complete control of the game and never looked back. She managed to convince Mackenzie to turn on one of her closest allies and evict Leah. Then she won the double eviction HOH to take out Angela, and at this point, Chelsie and Mackenzie just traded comp wins up until they were the last 2 players standing. Even though Mackenzie had an impressive competitive resume, she had burnt a lot of bridges thanks to Chelsea's manipulation of her, and the jurors were able to recognize the absolute clinic that Chelsie had put on throughout the season, and they awarded her the unanimous win because of it.
Just for the record, Chemo, Rabina, and Cam all voted for Chelsie. Unanimous win.
Chelsie was the first woman to win the game unanimously. the first player to win the second HOH and go on to win the game, the first woman to win 4 HOHs since Vanessa Russo nearly 10 years earlier. She never sat on the block for an eviction vote until it was by default at the final 3, and before that, the only time she was ever nominated was when Tucker blindsided her in week 5, but it didn't even matter because she was safe no matter what, and then she won the AI arena anyways. Chelsie was a record setter and a record breaker, and unlike other dominant winners like Derek and Cody, we actually did get to see how Chelsie handled facing adversity, which gives me a lot more overall faith in Chelsie on any given season. I had been going back and forth on whether or not I felt that Chelsie played the best winning game of any woman in Big Brother history. For me, it's between her, June, and Maggie, but after extensively going through her entire game, I feel like it's not a question. Chelsie did play the best game. The thing that tipped the scales in her favor is that both June and Maggie really struggled to win a jury vote against anyone other than their final 2 opponents, whereas Chelsie beats nearly everyone in the end and is also brought to the final 2 by more players than them. So, congrats, Chelsie. That crown is yours.
We heard you tell Mackenzie, had you won the final HOH, you were going to cut Chelsie and take Mackenzie. Is that true? Come on.
Now. That's my A1 since day one. I'm always going to stay with Chelsie.
At the end of these videos, I like to give the winner a rating on a scale of 1 to 10, and given everything that we've gone over, I think I'm going to give Chelsie a 9.2. She displayed such versatility and dominance that helped her overcome any hurdles that she faced throughout the season. And even if she did have 1 or 2 off weeks, she also had 11 phenomenal weeks to make up for it.
I feel so blessed. I've been a fan since I was a kid, and I worked hard the last 90 days, so I'm so blessed. I'm just ready to go see my dog.
And there we go. This is officially my longest video in the Big Brother Winner series, and it's not even close, but that's why it took so long for me to make this. There was just so much to talk about, and so many moving components that I really wanted to take the time and ensure that I was putting out a product that I was really proud of, and I think I accomplished that. Hopefully. If you made it this far, truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for watching. Shockingly, I'm not putting on the brakes after this, and I actually plan on having a little reindeer games video up in like a week and a half. And then after that, the next winner I'll be making a video on will be Maggie from Big Brother 6, so stay tuned. Anyways, I need to give that extra special shout out to all of my YouTube members and patrons who could have realistically beaten Mackenzie in any competition this season, as long as she wasn't wearing her blue Lululemon power suit. And, as always, here's a clip for you on your way out.
Chelsie! You don't have a prayer with Cam!
Zingbot!
Another house guest that was very interesting this season was Joseph.
Let's do the airtime power ranking. Kenny's still last. Number 8, I think it might be Chelsie. And then I think me.
He put his power ranking over me? What house have you lived in?
Y'all ready? Your auntie needs to vent for a second, and then I'll feed you guys. If y'all Uncle Cam come up in here trying to talk all that talk, report back to me.